All right, welcome back everybody. My name's Austin. There are massive protests and riots and looting happening all across the United States right now. There are protests in Raleigh, there are protests in Atlanta, there's protests right here in Los Angeles. In fact, the National Guard late last night, early this morning, descended on LA after a night of protests, after a night of looting. Now, if you're not in the United States or you just want to learn more, I really recommend this speech made last night by Killer Mike in regards to the rioting in Atlanta. This is going viral right now. I'm going to link this down below in the description. But in regard to Bitcoin, in some of these protests, like the protest in Raleigh, we are seeing average people like you, hold up signs saying Bitcoin and Black America. Google it. Saying Bitcoin is that peaceful protest out. I'm going to like it. I'm going to support it. Now, I don't want to minimize in any sense the racial, the civil injustices that started these protests 3-4 days ago. There are bigger things than cryptocurrency that are happening right now. But if you want to end corruption, you decentralize it. If you want to beat the system, you defund it. And we saw this suggestion in one little instance in the protests in Raleigh yesterday. Something to think about. Now, this is a crypto channel. This is a crypto news channel, so I want to bring you the top stories making news in our industry today. And speaking of that, while all other traditional markets were closed, obviously this weekend, the cryptocurrency market showed massive strength, led primarily this weekend by Ethereum and Cardano. A mini alt season, so to speak. So let's keep learning, let's keep growing towards that decentralized future. In US news, Trump versus Twitter. As you may or may not have heard, Twitter, the platform, has been fact-checking President Trump's tweets, a form of censorship. US President Donald Trump has signed an executive order on Thursday seeking to amend Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. Section 230 prevents social media companies from civil liability for the content posted on them. The order targets Twitter and Facebook after Twitter fact-checked two of President Donald Trump's tweets. So if you were to amend Section 230, that would mean that Twitter or Facebook would be liable for the content that is on their platform, instead of just specifically the people who put the content there. This was Donald Trump's problem with Twitter originally from a few days ago. We've added a label to two of real Donald Trump's tweets about California's vote-by-mail plans as part of our efforts to enforce our civil integrity policy. We believe those tweets could confuse voters about what they need to do to receive a ballot and participate in the next election process. And while I'm all for safety, giving the power to say what is factual and what isn't to one or few entities, to me, we should take the power out of this. We should decentralize the process. And Trump is attempting to fight this. The text emphasizes Trump's commitment to free and open debate on the internet. Trump said that, "We are here today to defend free speech against one of the gravest dangers it has faced in American history." And he then went on to identify the threat as the small handful of social media monopolies. And I tend to agree with that. Lawyers who reviewed the order say it is unlikely to accomplish Trump's goal, and Trump was misunderstanding the law, they said, and had little chance of achieving genuine reform of Section 230 without congressional help. So just because you sign an executive order seeking to amend, there's still years and years of judicial precedent that you need Congress to help push that into existence. And these problems arise even before getting into the obvious First Amendment issues, free speech issues raised by seeking to punish or regulate social media platforms for their editorial decisions. The real problem is these huge corporations, a few of them, control the outcome of everybody. The question for you as a Bitcoin holder is how decentralized can we make these platforms? Twitter, for example, is working on a decentralized standard called Blue Sky, though not much has been revealed about the project since announced in 2019. But I'll keep you updated. Next piece of news, the mempool, the Bitcoin mempool, just cleared. That means Bitcoin transactions should go relatively back to normal. It's not as congested as it was these last weeks. I like this picture. This is the mempool. As you can see, it's way less congested now than it was a few weeks ago. And yes, in addition to that, plus bad actors spamming, malicious companies like Blockchain and BitPay refusal to add SegWit. If these huge companies would add SegWit, it would make Bitcoin transactions way cheaper and not get as congested like now. Next piece of news. Before Ethereum, Dogecoin CEO Elon Musk has just launched humans into orbit. This was yesterday. And yes, obviously, this is a joke. Elon Musk, as a joke, was proclaimed CEO of Dogecoin on Twitter, but he did just launch SpaceX. The launch will be the first time a private company, rather than a national government, sends astronauts into orbit, Fox News said in a May 27th brief. It will also be the first time that astronauts launch from U.S. soil since the final space shuttle mission in 2011. So this is a big day for Elon. But really, if you were watching the crypto markets like us, Ethereum was really the coin that launched yesterday, moving up over 10%. And also Cardano is still pumping right now. Many people believe this is either because Shelley is coming out in a few weeks, and a few people are speculating that maybe Cardano is about to be added to Coinbase. That's unconfirmed, but that is being speculated because we did just see the MakerDAO's Maker token surge in price following Coinbase's listing. A lot of people are suspecting, hoping that Cardano may be surging because of that as well. Obviously, what Bitcoin and crypto does in the short term truly, in my opinion, depends on what traditional markets do in the short term. Are we heading towards a global depression? Global macro investor Ray Dalio weighs in. I want to play you this clip. But I also want to update you on the national cryptocurrency for Marshall Islands. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, opposes the Marshall Islands cryptocurrency, but the microstate Marshall Islands presses on. So this is an update. The Marshall Islands plans to launch the hybrid crypto fiat currency as a legal tender later this year as a way to deal with the unique economic issues that these islands right here that they face. The nation of more than 1,000 islands does not have a currency of its own. It gained independence from the United States in 1979 and desperately wants to reduce its reliance on the greenback. Interesting. And to be clear, the IMF can't block the Marshall Islands cryptocurrency, but it does have some clout. Its main functions are keeping an eye on economic development in its 189 member states and helping strengthen their fiscal system. So I get that, but also, and here's the key, it's also a lender of last resort, which has given over $1 trillion in loans to these islands. So it's a weird relationship right there. But as of now, the Marshall Islands are still pressing on. And the last clip is from global macro investor Ray Dalio. Are we heading towards a global depression? It's this kind of perspective, which is what I look for when understanding where we are globally, financially. And full disclosure, this clip of Ray Dalio is from right around here. And since then, the S&P has only shown strength, despite record number unemployment, despite a lack of consumer demand in the market. Stocks are looking great. Now, that doesn't change anything that Ray's about to say, but with this perspective, with this hindsight, if anything, it magnifies what potentially could happen if we keep seeing this lack of demand in the market. Watch this.
Do you think that we're headed into a global depression?
Yes, but I want to be careful about what I use the word, like to be
Right,
technical.
absolutely.
The word is an evocative word,
Sure.
and it could be scary and so on. So what do you mean by a depression? Okay. Something like happened in the 1930s. So just to repeat, 1929 to 1932, there was a fall in the economy and a very double-digit unemployment rates and a magnitude of fall in the economy like about 10%. Do I think we're in that? Yes. How was that dealt with? 1933. What they did is they printed a lot of money. And the government came out with the same type of programs that we're having now. Yes, okay, same thing. Interest rates hit zero, same thing. Okay, same dynamics. And then there is that money causes an expansion from that point. How long does it take for the stock market to exceed its highs? Or how long does it take for the economy to exceed its former highs? A long time. Okay, do I think that's what we're in? Yes, that's what we're in. We've seen that happen repeatedly in history. So many, many times. It's just the most recent one. And there's a structure to that. So yes, this is not a recession. This is a breakdown, an operation that I'm just describing in terms of how it's dealt with, the production of money and credit, and all of that. That's what we're in.